Right, so short stream today to try to take this little macropad we've been prototyping, and we're gonna try to make it an actual keyboard, functioning keyboard today. So I'm going to do this live, so it's going to be boring and full of mistakes. Let's switch to this guy here. So this is the code so far, and it's not doing that much. It was just to test the board. By the way, this is the board. What it does is that, so here on the other side, I haven't done a matrix. That would have saved me some pins, but I went for one pin per, turn on some lights here. This is really dark. Oh, there you go. Yeah, so instead I've been I've been using one pin on the microcontroller, which is an Adafruit itsy-bitsy RP2040, using the new Raspberry Pi microcontroller chip that everybody seems to be using these days. So one pin per key, which is not economical, but I'm prototyping, so bear with me. The final design will be very different in many ways, but I'm just trying to tinker with it, see, just prototype, right? All right, so on the other side, this is connected to the little board here, and I've programmed it so that every time I hit a key, it turns on this LED here, and let me make some space here so that we can see what is actually happening on the board. So there is an RGB LED on the board, and I've programmed it so that this is a row of blue going from dim to bright, and it's actually binary, so I can do chords here. And that I can only do because I'm not using a matrix of keys. And so I have a row for blue, a row for red, a row for green, and I can do combinations, purple here, cyan, yellow-ish. Anyway, so let's look at the code for that. The code for that is pretty straightforward. First, we're importing a bunch of libraries here. In particular, the NeoPixel is driving the RGB LED that's on board. We are using digital IOs. I don't need that. I've been experimenting at some point with some analog IO, but I don't really need that one. It's fine, doesn't hurt. Then I'm setting up some pins here. So those are all of the pins that I'm using. So I'm assigning them to variables. So this is the first row of keys. So those here. Second row and third row. Then I'm putting those into an array so that I can access them row by row. And I'm putting all the rows in another array that is the whole keyboard. Then I'm scanning all those keys on the keyboard. So I'm scanning all the rows in the keyb, all the keys in the row, and then I'm setting those so that they use a pull-up resistor inside of the microcontroller. What does this mean? So to control something, like to have a button, like which is just a passive button like we have on this macro keyboard, you're just connecting the ground to the pin. But if you don't set it up, that pin is floating, which means that it doesn't have a well-defined voltage. So you don't really know for sure what's happening when you short it. So most microcontrollers have a setup in there, well, all of them have a setup in there inside that you can set it up so that it connects the pin to a pull-up resistor. What the pull-up resistor is doing is that it's putting a resistor between the high voltage when you configure it as pull-up and the pin, which means that when it's not shorted, you will have a voltage of that is applied between the ground and the pin. And when you short the key, then that voltage will drop to 0 because you're connecting to the ground. So that pull-up system gives it a reference, which is what you will depart from when you press the key. Trying to explain that for those who are not used to this. This is very elementary to some of you, and yeah, that's it. So we're setting up all those pins so that they are pull-ups, meaning that they have at rest, they have the I think it's 3.3 volts. Yeah, it's 3.3 volts on this. And when they're shorted, it's 0. So that enables the microcontroller to read the keys. All right, so we're also setting up that LED. And we're setting that as an output. And the pixel, that is the RGB LED that's on board, we're also setting that up. This is a little debug message that's going to go to the console here at the bottom of the screen. And then we're just looping. I mean, eventually we'll build the software so that the keys provide some interrupts. There is a new library for that in CircuitPython. But here we're just going to have an infinite loop that enumerates the keys in the keyboard. So first enumerate the rows, then enumerate the keys on the row, and looking at the value, and then computing, you know, the intensity that we want for our RGB, well, yeah, for our RGB LED. So we are doing some calculations of colors here. And then eventually we are turning on the LED if any key was pressed, and we're setting the color of the pixel as the combination of all the keys that were pressed. That's fairly simple. So that was just demoware to see what we could do with that keyboard by, you know, scanning the keys and see what happens. And you can also see in the console, you can see that we are also printing the values of the keys here, and you can see it here, each of the key that was pressed. All right. So the first thing we want to do here is add a library that will enable us to play with this as an actual keyboard. So that will be from root HID. So that's the library, and we want the keyboard from that. Keyboard. Okay. We'll need the layout as well. The footage ID dot keyboard layout. Take the US layout, import keyboard layout. Oops. US. And we'll need key codes. GD key code. And those libraries have to be uploaded to the controller in advance if you want to use them. So this is just a copy operation that you do into your controller. What else? I think I need to import as well USB HID. So here I'm relying on Adafruit's excellent documentation. I'm not doing all that from memory. So what else? Let's see. Yeah, we need to initialize some variables here so that we actually have a keyboard abstraction here. So that's the library we imported. So we're creating a keyboard here. USB underscore head devices. And we need to initialize the layout. Using that keyboard object. And now when a key is pressed, we should be able to direct that onto that keyboard object. So that keyboard object has a press method that we can use to simulate the pressing of a key. Well, simulate, transmit to the computer that the information that the key was pressed. Okay, so let's start with something very simple where so in addition to printing the name of the key to the console, we'll actually use our keyboard object and press. Let's see. I think it takes a list of keys and we'll try something like that. Oops. Let's see what that does. And so I should do that on release of the key. So this will be very bouncy because as soon as the key gets pressed, we'll send the information that the key was pressed, and we'll immediately release the keyboard. But you can see that I'm a C# developer usually because I'm putting semicolons at the end of my lines, which is bad in Python. All right, so let's see what that does. Save. That goes to the microcontroller. Keyboard ready. Let's see. I should get an A on my editor now. No? Something happened. Unsupported types, blah, 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 blah. So that didn't work. So it worked until we reached this, and then line 58, this didn't work. Probably because it doesn't take an actual string here, but probably something better than that. Key code. Yeah, I'm supposed to be giving it a key code, I suppose. So, probably need to consult the documentation here, because as you can see, I have no idea what I'm doing here. All right, so keycode.a, that's what I want. Keycode.a. Let's try this. Why didn't that go through? Code done running. Oh, I'm in REPL mode. I hate when it does that. Just hope that saved file, but yeah, that's something that I've always found a little weird with this UI. It does that, doesn't it? So let me switch to this for a second while I try to restore that guy and make it behave. I clicked in that window and it switched it to REPL mode. not super used to that environment, and that just tripped me up. Okay, serial. Let me reset it. So it's not happy now. Why it flashes like that? That's an error code, I'm pretty sure. Let me see if I can. I think it's in the wrong mode or something like that. I hate when it does that. I'm not 100% on how to restore it. Yeah, it appears as a drive now. I usually have to tinker with it a few times before it does what I want. I keep bumping into the mic. That doesn't help. I'm sorry about that. CircuitPython is back. So hopefully that should be a little better here. Okay. Press any key to enter the repo. No, code done running. Okay, let's see. Keycode is not defined. Didn't I define keycode? Oh. Oh, keycode with a capital K. Okay. Try that. Keyboard ready. Yes! That worked. It's behaving as a keyboard now. All right, so all I have to do now is change that loop so that it actually does what I want here. Okay, so let's see. So I could take Adafruit's demo code and wait for it here to be released. Or I could also remember the previous state and send the code when a key goes from pressed to depressed. So that would be the equivalent of having an event on key up. Yeah, we can do that. So let's have a variable that will that will remember the previous key code that we want. Let's also have a little dictionary of the actions that we want each key to perform. So let's say, for example, that, okay. Yeah, I'll do that offline. Instead, let's differentiate those guys all. yeah, let's just make that numeric keyboard just by doing this, and we'll add, well, let's see how that works. I'm curious to see if you can just add an integer to yeah, so that's the row. So we have 5 keys per row, and the key, yeah, let's try to see if that actually gives us the numbers from 0 to 5 to 4 on the first row, and 5 to and so on the other rows. Let's see. Invalid syntax. What did I do? Oh, it doesn't want me to add directly like that. That's unfortunate. That would have been cool and easy. Right, so I guess I have to construct some kind of mapping function. Oh no, it's actually key to key code. I need to understand how you send. Can I send sequences? Do I have to just string the key codes if I do that? Is there a reference to that? Python's library page. Python library. No, that's not what I want. Do we have documentation on that library? Or do I need to actually dive into it? I'm consulting the documentation to understand what else I can do. We have to go into the actual source code to understand how to do this. Ooh, can I use the keyboard layout to do that? Okay, you know what? I'll figure that out later offline. What I'll just do here is maybe make this a little less bouncy so that the keys actually send something to the keyboard as a keyboard when you release the key and not when you press it. So let's see. I'll just do a quick and dirty thing here, and let's see, last. We already have this color thing, but what do we put in there? Our key value, okay, last key. And when a key is pressed, we just set last key to should I put that in a tuple? Yeah, tuple will do fine. And we'll store the index. Should we store the index? Yeah. And key index. So we are just storing the last one. Is 0, 0 something? Let's initialize it to -1, -1. That will be nothing is in their value. So we want to do that after we've tested. Okay, so here we're just going to test. Do we have? Oh, actually, we want to do that on release. Right, so we're scanning. Okay, so that makes sense. So we're going to do else here. So here the key is not pressed, but if it was pressed before, so if k, can I do that in Python? I know so little about Python. So no, we're going to do row and key. If that's equal to last key, that means that what that it was just released, right? So in that case, I'm just going to do a key press, and the key press is going to be a switch of the row and key here. So for the moment, I'll just do 0. I'll continue to do that. I'll have a better mapping later and releasing it. And we also want to set the last key to be -1, -1, right? Because we're done with that key. And that should be it. But in this case, we want to set last key. So that's very primitive, because it also means that if you press multiple keys at the same time, only the last one that you release, or only the first one that you release is going to count. So let's say that you press a key, press a second key, release the first key, release the second key. The second key is, no, first, second, second, first. In that case, the first key, when you release it, won't count. But yeah, that's fine. Just plain. So last key equals R. Okay. And then later, we're going to be able to do something better here. So we're going to do something different based on what key was pressed. But for the moment, that should be a non-bouncy keyboard where all the keys give us 0. Let's try this. All right. So I'm going to put my cursor somewhere here. Okay, so that didn't work. And I'm not even getting... Oh, I have a syntax error. Should pay attention. Oh shit, I clicked on it again. Control D to reload. Control D to reload. Does that work? No. No, don't do that. What did I do? So now if I save, will that work again? Or did I bust it again? I did bust it again. I really need to figure out how to restore that without restarting the controller n times. That doesn't scale. Okay, so it was unhappy about line 61, invalid syntax 61. So I'm not allowed to do that. What did I forget about Python here? I really need to brush up on my Python. I haven't done it in years. Python tuple equality. How does tuple comparison work in Python? Trusty Stack Overflow is going to give me the goods. Should be able to do that. Did I forget? Oh! I'm so not confident in my Python that I'm just assuming that I don't know how to compare tuples, whereas I just forgot a parenthesis. All right, so let's see if we're still in repo mode here. Apparently we are. That doesn't work. I need to figure out how this works. Current log. That doesn't help. What is that? Doesn't do anything. Oh well, let's cycle it. I'll figure it out eventually. I should also use something less conductive than screwdrivers to reset. So that didn't work. So I'm switching the mode here as I'm resetting. So that's an error code. Or is it? Yeah, it is. I'm waiting for it to accept to switch to the deployment mode. I'm waiting for it to accept to switch to Oh, it also messed up with my audio configuration. Oh, Circuit Python is back. Oh, it also messed up with my audio configuration. Oh, Circuit Python is back. Oh, it also messed up with my audio configuration. Oh, Circuit Python is back. Oh, it also messed up with my audio configuration. Oh, Circuit Python is back. That's fun, I'm getting an audio loop now. Where is that coming from? No idea. Some audio device must have turned on. That's fun, I'm getting an audio loop now. Where is that coming from? No idea. Some audio device must have turned on. That's fun, I'm getting an audio loop now. Where is that coming from? Just going to stop streaming, and that will be it. But I'm so close. Just going to stop streaming, and that will be it. But I'm so close. Just going to stop streaming, and that will be it. But I'm so close. Just going to stop streaming, and that will be it. But I'm so close. I'm just going to stop streaming, and that will be it. But I'm still having a syntax error on the next line now. 62. What's wrong with that? Still having a syntax error on the next line now. 62. What's wrong with that? Still having a syntax error on the next line now. 62. What's wrong with that? Still having a syntax error on the next line now. 62. What's wrong with that? Still having a syntax error on the next line now. 62. What's wrong with that? Still having a syntax error on the next line now. 62. What's wrong with that? Syntax. It's not a right syntax. Invalid syntax. Why is that invalid syntax? It's not a right syntax. Invalid syntax. Why is that invalid syntax? It's not a right syntax. Invalid syntax. Why is that invalid syntax? It's not a right syntax. Why is that invalid syntax? It's not a right syntax. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Wasn't that working before? Wasn't that working before? Wasn't that working before? Wasn't that working before? He has a problem with that line. What the fuck? Wasn't that working before? He has a problem with that line. What the fuck? The rest works. He has a problem with that line. What the fuck? The rest works. He has a problem with that line. What the fuck? Oh, fuck. He has a problem with that line. It's probably something like that. Oh, fuck. I'm an idiot. It's probably something like that. Okay. Oh, so now it works on releasing the key as expected. Like okay. Okay, so let's stop here. That's good enough. It works. We'll put that on GitHub and continue from there. And that echo is unbearable. I don't know if you hear it, but anyway, I do that on GitHub. All right. Bye, everyone. Till next time. It's Bertrand for Screaming at the Radio.